Thanks very much, John, and thank you to everybody else, Minister, everybody else. I promise not to put my hand in that thing because it keeps moving, that then you'll all be expecting coffee to come very quickly. But I will be quick. I don't have a PowerPoint either. Firstly, let me say that I'm very pleased to be that the BAI is co-sponsor and part of this event. Delighted to be here today. I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing in our strategy and work plan. Talk a little bit about the guidelines that the Minister's introduced, and then some other work we're doing in the research side during the current year, and then some policy development we hope to be doing later in the year. So that's just 4 or 5 key points I want to touch on. I suppose just starting with the statement of strategy, our 3-year strategy statement of 2014 to 16. One of the key strategic goals is about delivering plurality in Irish broadcasting, and we have a number of sort of key components of that. The first one is that we try in our policies to ensure that the viewer and listener has access to a multiplicity of providers offering voices and viewpoints. We also look to seek to assist the provision of universal provision of well-resourced news and current affairs, which we regard as being essential safeguards of a democratic society. I think it's fair to say that there are a range of different approaches to how you achieve plurality. There are licensing policies, there are ownership and control media concentration policies. There's also a delivery of a mix of service types. As you know, that in Ireland, in broadcasting terms, we have both public, private and community broadcasting. And then we try to deliver a range of sources of viewpoint in news. And Marie McGonigal, in one of her later slides, which she barely got to talk about, looked at the notion of content and providing support to content, which we would do, for example, under the BAI Sound and Vision scheme. Within the 3-year work plan of the BAI, we prioritise a number of key activities under the plurality heading, and I'm going to come back to these just a little bit later. I think it's clear from all of the presentations here, and indeed from the reports, the writers and the work that DCU have done, that plurality is complex and getting more complex in an evolving media environment. The level of change is quite staggering, and the research that's been done demonstrates this. You have to, the example you've got to look at is the mobile phone, the smartphone, and the impact that has had on how people source news. If you want to get a news story this evening, you don't need to be near a radio or a television. You get your smartphone and you turn it on, and you'll have seen over the last number of years the almost disappearance of free sheets at train stations, for example, because everybody's got their mobile phone and everybody's sourcing their news on their phone. So that's just one example, and I think the research is showing that, and that's not going to change. That is going to continue on. I think the value of research, it isn't that we've just come around to the value of research now in the BAI column. We've always had valued research. But I think the value is that it will map trends over time, and within our research policy, that's something that we're looking to do. We're looking forward to seeing how trends evolve and develop. We look forward to continuing the partnership we have with DCU in this regard, and also that we've as you probably know, signed up a 3-year arrangement with Reuters, and we look forward to continuing that over the next number of years. Mary touched on developments at an international level, and clearly they are important, but I think, and I wrote down what she said, it is very much a national issue, and identified at a European level that the central and primary role of national governments and regulators is to deal with plurality. It is very much something that should remain a focus, and I suppose it is welcome that the fact that the 2014 Act has given the Competition and Consumer Protection Act has given a prominence to plurality in what it has done. I was also part of that advisory committee in 2008 with Colm, and indeed we did wonder why it took so long to get it through, but we at the same time that's not for us to say. I think it's welcome the fact that the Minister has brought it in, and we look forward to implementing it at this time. Just briefly on the ministerial guidelines, there's been some criticism about a lack of specificity within the guidelines, and we wouldn't agree with that. There is a need for flexibility, I suppose, to ensure that an overall objective is achieved. The guidelines set out broad principles with some specifics, and I think that's what is desired. And then it is a matter for the Broadcasting Authority if it's requested to do so, or indeed the advisory panel that will be established by the Minister to follow those broad principles in coming to a determination. We also welcome the new role that we've been given by the Act and by the Minister in terms of providing advice and research. And you're probably aware, some of you, that today's publication is the first of 2 pieces of research that we will be publishing this year. The second is a specific requirement within the 2014 Act, where we must deliver a piece of research within the first year of the enactment of that Act, and we are all systems go on that. I have Tim Souter and Rob Kenny of Communication Chambers here today who are undertaking that work for the BAI, and we will have that completed by September and a report submitted to the Minister within the time frame required under the Act. Research, I suppose I emphasise where we are, research is very important. It provides that concrete base to determine the most appropriate approach to deliver on the overall objective of plurality. It's about establishing evidence, establishing data, giving context, establishing trends, and we're committed to working and developing that over the next number of years to ensure that baseline evidence. We talk in our strategy as well about evidence-informed or evidence-based decision-making, and I think sometimes when these topics are discussed, we tend to lose sight of that. The evidence-informed and evidence-based decision-making is very important. A number of other pieces of work that we will do on foot of this with the new framework in place. We will commence a process to review the ownership and control policy that currently exists, and we will recast it within the terms of the overall plurality framework that is set out in the strategy. And we look forward, that probably is something we will look to begin a process of maybe in the final quarter of this year once these other pieces of work have been completed. Obviously, we look to engaging with all interested parties, and there are many, when we commence that process at that stage. And my final, because he's looking at the final thing is the Minister mentioned the Phase 3 examination. We're getting ready for that. Who knows, there may be one in the near future. Maybe there will, maybe not, but we'll be ready when you ask the question, Minister. Thank you for that.